That is some
start every
awesome
single.
music.
Hey man, I'm just trying to take care of you. I know that you have a vision. I'm just trying to help with your vision.
You have a awesome vision. I'm just participating.
Well, I'm going to make sure here that we are bringing the man of the hour, Robbie Mattson. Robbie Mattson, can we hear stuff? Robbie, you still there? I think we lost Robbie.
Hey, there you are.
All right, we're back. I don't know what happened. Maybe it's us on our end over here. Who knows? Um, but Mr. Robbie, I was giving you all the accolades. You are an amazing man and you've accomplished a lot, and there is so much for you to share and offer and for us to learn from you, not only from so many things that have happened in life, from just being the great man that you are, but you've also walked the circumference of the earth.
Yes, it was. I got divorced back in 20. Sorry, let me start off by saying thank you. I appreciate the graphics. I appreciate the music, the accolades. I'm very humbled by all the comments. As we talked about and kind of prepped for the vision, I just love to share some, secrets. I would say I would start with the bombshell, which is my biggest lesson learned is your opinion of me is none of my effing business, and it'll help you to sleep at night much better. That being said, yeah, no pun intended. I would start off with saying I know your vision is in nutrition, and my lessons have shown me that nutrition, exercise, which we could talk about for months and months about what that actually means, and sleep are all three pillars that are very important. And so, one of my biggest lessons learned in walking the circumference of the earth is the importance of proper sleep. Uh, I've used an alarm clock twice in the last 2 years, but for vacations to make sure we don't miss a flight. But the rest of the time, it's better to go to sleep and let your body wake up naturally on its own. And, anyways, I'll stop there. Any thoughts?
Yeah, man, of course. Again, this vision of wanting to kind of chat and kind of talk about everything that you've kind of accomplished with this, I think is important. I want to slow down a little bit and don't
Okay.
you tell me if I'm definitely slowing down way too much. But I hear you what you're saying. I mean, to walk as much as you do, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said that for you to get your second lap, and when we talk about you walking the circumference of the earth, this started by tracking on your Fitbit, correct?
Yes. So, thank you for slowing us down.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I got divorced in 2015. I decided at that point that I was gonna like focus on myself. One of the things I noticed at the time, there was a huge fad of Fitbit. So coming up on my 10-year anniversary of being tracked 24
10
hours a day,
years.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
So
That's incredible. First of all, that you that that devotion is there. Not even so much for walking, but keeping your Fitbit charged.
oh my gosh, I don't know. I had to, that was one of probably the earliest lessons was I still walked it even if the machine didn't track it. So, when I actually did cross the equator, basically walk the circumference of the earth, I probably had 500 miles at that time that was not tracked on Fitbit. And,
Ah,
so you learn to, yeah. And it was stupid things like technology. I would fly from Texas to Washington, where all my family is, and I would land. And as far as my Fitbit was concerned, it was 12:30 because I'm in Texas. But when I landed, it was 10:30 there. Still the same day. I think I'm going to get to go finish my steps and get my stuff in, and it would reset, and I'd end up getting 1,000 steps instead of the 18,000 I'd walked for the day before I got on the airplane.
That you know what, airport walking I think is a hack, by the way, right? I think a lot of people just sit down and chill, and I'm like, I don't know how you guys are doing it, but if I'm on a plane sitting still, I'm gonna go crazy. So
Me
it
too.
definitely helps me to make sure that I'm definitely doing that kind of thing. I think it's important. What I do want to make sure that we are getting in here is the importance of, because I this isn't something that I would completely know off the top of my head here, but I'm gonna make sure that I know that the circumference of the Earth is 24,901 miles. Is that correct? Is that what you have in your mind?
I rounded up because there was some, and I don't know if it's a swelling thing or whatever, but there were some that said it was 24,902. So I used
Okay.
that as my. If you go back and there's some way to uh, search the archives, I tracked all this on uh, Instagram. So there's a hashtag, and you can go look it up. And I mean, I'm walking in the snow. We had Armageddon where we had 48 hours with no power at our house, and I still walked 12 miles each day. I mean, it was chaos. So
Yeah.
back to the beginning. I started to track. I got a Fitbit. I joined. I'm very competitive, so I found my friends. We would, do challenges, and I started, sort of that way. And without skipping ahead, but giving at least the impetus, I I started listening to a lot of Joe Rogan podcasts, and I would use those to find authors that had books on Audible that they read themselves. That was kind of my criteria. I want them to read it so I can get tone and nuance, all that kind of stuff. And I got to David Goggins.
Mm.
He basically said, "Hey, you've used about this much of what you're capable of." I took him at his word. As I said, I had just gotten divorced and was sort of kind of figuring out where I was going to go. And I made this wild goal, and I've put it in some of our chats, but I made this goal where I was going to walk by the time I was 50, which meant I had to walk 12 miles a day. So in the restaurant business, they would say I did a soft opening, which I did that for, I want to say it was 90 some days where I said, "Hey, I'm going to walk 12 miles a day every day." And I failed like a lot. But
Yeah.
I always made the 84 miles at the end of the week. So I couldn't do 12, and I say you couldn't. I chose not to let myself get bogged down in the specific of one day, but as long as I made 84 a week, I was going to make my goal. And that's how I broke it down. And that's what I ended up using to make my goal.
Right. Do I have this correct that your goal, so you said 12 miles per day by the time you're 50, you said, right? And
Yeah,
yeah. And that's 24,000 steps really per day. Well, about, right? If we're rounding whatever's going on, about 24,000 steps a day.
it worked out for me, and my wife and I have Fitbits, and we've done so much testing in all those things where hers would track good sleeping and mine wouldn't, and we would trade, and the bug was in the system versus the anyways.
Oh
My,
man, that's so in your head with those where, oh my goodness, that's so much thinking.
it is way overthinking, and I'm good at doing that. But we were mine would basically be 175,000 miles a week that I would have to walk consistently.
I'm sorry, say it again. 175,000 miles a week.
175,000 miles a week.
Wow, that's crazy. And hold on, I want to slow myself down and have this in my head. And obviously, that 175 divided by seven, so it's 25. What did I just do wrong? Wait, you said one. What is
One
wrong with
seven
me?
do one
175 miles per week?
175,000 steps per week
Steps. Got it. Okay, got it. I was right.
divided
Okay,
by
got it.
seven. Yep.
So then it's 25,000 steps per day. Okay, so I see where we're at. So we're a little bit, we're kind of around there.
Yes.
Um, okay, so I love this because this is giving us a really good understanding, kind of like where you you are going, obviously. So someone could look at this and say, Robbie's looking to get a bunch of steps. That's way more than I would ever do. Amazing, more power to you. I think it's really good. But you you finished your first lap around the world, right? That circumference of the earth. And again, just because I think this number has to keep coming up, but about that 24,902 is what we're going to say, 24,902 miles around the earth. You spent your time walking, and you're listening to podcasts, you're getting these ideas of, how to, empower yourself, self-improvement, all these really cool things. And I think it brought you to some realizations. I think one thing in particular, I think just to kind of toss this one out there, is you're thinking like, why aren't we walking more? Why are we sitting at a desk? I'm sitting at a desk right now just for purposes of figuring out how we do this first episode here.
Right.
But you really wanted to, well, I'm going to do, I'm going to volley this to you, Robbie, and we can keep talking about it. What would your mission be about bringing this conversation, second lap, we're going to call it second lap? What's the purpose? What's the mission of second lap?
I really think that people need to or could benefit from the understanding of the feet to the brain, like the mental aspect of trace us back. We've been told our history. I'm going to use our history that's been told as my example. Cavemen, food wasn't sitting out at the grocery store. It wasn't sitting in a lockbox somewhere. It wasn't sitting in the same place somewhere. It was people walking, looking, walking, starving, walking. Oh, kill an animal, pick it up with our arms and carry it back. All of that 3 days of walking, eat it. There's no refrigerator. Repeat. So if you're at your basic level, we have built everything in technology around the coddled man. Like it's not, there's nothing there that makes it hard. So I'm drawn to, like, I'm wearing this shirt. My daughter and I 10 years ago did this. It's like a world's toughest mudder amateur, and got really crazy and walked through it. And it was like right at the time I was starting this. And it's like, man, we just need to do stuff to get this anxiety out of our body, which is the anxiety is just built up tension of we've got so much more potential than we like do anything with.
I hear you. I like what you're saying when you say the idea of we're not doing as many things as we can, I guess is what I'll say. We're not doing as many things as we can that makes it hard anymore. And it's only when things get hard and we get broken down a little bit that we really can grow from that and get stronger, right? I'm basically talking science of muscle when I really think of that. But really, I think people sometimes only think of growth when we think of like muscle and things like that. But if we don't spend time pushing ourselves to be in a position where things are hard, even mentally, how are we supposed to grow? We do need these moments of kind of, getting ourselves to the edge of what we've been capable of doing, finding what we can't do, failing a little bit, making it hard, and then being able to sit back for a second and then grow from there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would totally agree that it's like a muscle. You're gonna have atrophy if you don't ever use the muscle. So you need to stress the muscle a
Sure.
certain level, right? And just doing the average isn't gonna do that. So you do need to go that way. I think in addition to, I'm just trying to think of the mental piece for me is, I can think more clearly. I get some of my best thoughts, and I was going to say what's really at the heart of this, and I'm going to pause here just to make sure the wind isn't blocking it. That it's boredom. Like people aren't able to deal with being bored. Back to what you were starting to say earlier, I was going to interject. People, the instant they're bored, they grab their phone, they're on an app, they talk to some, they do something. I think some of the most value I got in my earliest times walking was I ended up being in one of those tech layoffs, and I got to experience what 24 hours in a day feels like for 6 months. And the word, I could never say I was bored because I was looking for a job, but there are hours of boredom in there, and it was an extremely kind of an eye-opening event that allowed me to, I can and still do go for walks where I don't do anything and I don't put anything in my ears, and sometimes I do. I'll put them in the noise cancellation just to try and stay as focused in my head as I can. But a lot of times, because I'm spending so much time walking, I'm actually rather, hey, listen to a podcast, create content that I hope is going to inspire somebody to do something better with their life, lead with love, be there to not allow the society that drives with fear to, drive our behavior. So the boredom piece, I think, is where I would dive into, where we've just been conditioned as a society that that's bad and we have to go do something immediately. And I think it's probably some of the times where I've got my best ideas and my most growth is just in an hour and being by myself with me.
That in itself, because if you think about what you did say and share, those are two competing thoughts. I think one thing of, doing as much as, we aren't doing enough. We have to, it has to be harder, right? Food is just found in our fridge. We don't have to move all that much. So we have to push ourselves to, do a little bit more right now, right?
Yep.
A hunt for food, if you think about it. But the other thing is, boredom. We might think that boredom is easy, where it sounds as if what you're saying is boredom actually is not as easy when you think about it. You have to go out and search for it. You have to go get your boredom. And if you end up remaining bored in the environment that, you're not moving in, that might be the worst spot to be.
Yes, I would. You've articulated it much better than I was attempting to. Yes, it's good to. For me, some of my best times have been out in nature, Utah, hiking in canyons. Sometimes just here at the golf course on Thanksgiving when nobody's there. Some place where it's kind of isolated, but still visually stimulated. So I'm walking. I am stimulating my brain because I'm seeing all this beauty around me and I'm thinking about some other problem. So it's, able to think real heavy and it, it's been some of my biggest areas where I've come up with, the second area that I would say my biggest growth came from, which is perspective
Yeah.
and really focusing in on what perspective is. And we could spend episodes of talking about perspective. So I'll let you have words.
Well, I mean, that is, you're saying episodes, and we had communicated with the idea of wanting to make sure that you put some of these thoughts out there about what you did learn and how this walking brought this mental clarity, how you found boredom at the same time pushing yourself to the edge and seeing what the benefit was from growing, from finding yourself at the edge too. Those are all things that we can't wrap up in 30 minutes. You can't do that, right? And I think I think within that is where, breaking down each thought, having these discussions, and hoping that there is some sort of motivation or motivating message that we can get to someone to say, hey, why don't we get up, move our body, and however we can do it. But walking can definitely be one of those. When you are thinking about walking for yourself right now, it definitely is part of your identity. Do
I
you feel as
identify
it,
as a walker. Yes.
where else do you think it's helped you as a, let's say in your professional life? Because I'm trying to bridge to this one thought right now, which, at the end of the day, if somebody were to click into this and see you walking, you'd be like, oh my gosh, look, this guy for 30 minutes, he's having a conversation, basically a meeting, right? Where you can get out and walk, you're moving your body. Actually, you know what he said? When he's walking, his mind is more clear. And you know what I need? I need some clarity. I need to move my body a little bit more. Why don't I also have a walking meeting? There's a little bit of a mission here, which I don't want to spoon feed this, but the idea of, can we get people to move more while they're at work, when they're thinking about what is the next thing? How can I get myself motivated? Well, let's get out and walk. Let's see what's going on. And this might be their time as they're watching you, whether it's Eastern, Central, Pacific time. Can you get up from your desk? Like, and not me right now. I have a purpose at the moment for being at my desk, but my goal is to
Yep.
also be out. But we getting people up and out of their office, out of their desk to better their life. Is that a little bit of what you're hoping for?
Yes, I would love to see that. I believe, I in the midst of the COVID time, there was one of my learning lessons. I had a manager at the time. People don't leave jobs, they leave managers. But I had a manager at the time that
That's a
felt
really
that
big thought there, Robbie. That's a big thought there. We have to come back to that. Put a flag in it.
put a flag there, please. The where I was going with this is he felt that we needed to be sitting in front of a monitor while he spoke for, call it 90 minutes at a time. And I would put my headphones in and I would leave and I'd go for a walk. I would be expected to talk 30 seconds, 5 minutes maybe of this talk at the most. And I felt it was important and it was like very, very highly frowned upon. So my next manager understood, knew my goal, knew what I was doing, and it was part of my identity. And I've learned how to build my whole schedule around it. It's, as you said, I identify as a walker, so I look at, you know, if you do you ever see the movie The Beautiful Mind or A Beautiful Mind?
Yes, I have.
Russell Crowe. Okay, and he
Yeah.
looks at the wall and he can see all the numbers and all that kind of stuff. I can look at my calendar and I can see where a walk fits in and which route I can take to maximize, my step count before I have to be back in front of a monitor.
That's amazing. I think that is a sometimes with the nutrition, I feel that way, and it's really hard. Sometimes when I'm talking with someone or a new client, I'm realizing I have to remind myself that they don't think that way. Like when I'm looking down at a plate of food or I'm thinking about my day, my mind goes to, I know what I need for what this goal is, and I know how to get there through food. But I would totally say that when it comes to walking, if you look at my calendar, there's 2 times in my day where I schedule my walks in there. Because if I don't, I'm not going to get up and I'm not going to move. Now, do I miss some of those and I work through it? I do, and I feel bad. But it
Right.
is something where it's at least a reminder of, oh my gosh, I have been sitting here for that little bit of time. But that is it. Whether you're working out, getting to a gym, or you're doing something else, you still need to schedule it, right?
What is it? You prioritize it, you track, or you can't. There's so many damn rules and slogans. I can't remember which one I'm trying to mix up here. But if you don't track, you can't have an effect. It's the whole reason I'm 10 years. I mean, if you told me 20 years ago, we're going to put something on you that you're going to actually give a shit about every day, because if you don't, you're not going to make this artificial goal you just made.
Yeah.
I would have said, "There's no way. I don't want to be. I want to be off the grid. I'm from Alaska. I want to be no
Are you from
cell
Alaska,
phone.
Robbie?
I lived first grade through ninth grade in Anchorage, and spent every summer down on the Kenai. So I like getting away, and as much as my life has been afforded technology, I also love to get away from it.
Yeah, I hear you. I think the more people that I meet from, I'm gonna say up north, right? Um, it definitely is something where I feel like there is this innate drive to be outside, to get outside. And, it's like if you are stuck, like you can almost feel that tension get, pent up for a lot of people that, have been in some of those areas where,
Especially if they're unaware. I mean, it's even worse if you're not aware, right? If you and I, at least, as you said, you'll see things, you can notice things. You're on the schedule. You've got these priorities. There are people that are just absolutely, and I'm going to use this word a lot as we talk, and I don't mean anything with disrespect to it. There's ignorance, which means you just don't know what you're looking at. You don't have any frame of reference. You don't really have any education. You just don't have any knowledge. And I was very ignorant in a lot of areas of my life that I think I'm not a superstar now, but it's really amazing when you can kind of lay across. I feel like I've grown vertically more than I've grown horizontally. That's another whole conversation.
got it. Yeah, let's definitely come back to that. I think we need to. There's also, as you were talking, I was thinking, as I think someone is walking, and while I can bring you some kind of mental clarity, at the same time, there's a little bit of a conditioning that I think needs to happen as you walk and think and put your thoughts together. It's kind of hard. I wanted to ask this question. Did you ever find any, because I asked a lot of my clients this, whenever I ask my clients to either move more, eat differently, do something that they're uncomfortable with, once they do it, like just as an example, I have a lot of people that over restrict, right? So they're afraid of certain foods. They've they've tried keto or something, they saw some success, they're afraid to eat starches.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, well, you know what? Starches aren't bad here. Why don't we try some? And these are the benefits of them. So we teach them that, but they're still afraid. So I'll ask them, I'll say, hey, can you do me a favor? The meal that you have before you come here or you go work out, can you do me a favor? Just add a little bit of starch in there, and here's some examples. Whenever they do that, I always like to ask them, hey, what was the benefit? Did you feel really good? I don't like that question as much. My more favorite question is, what was the detriment? Because I think the absence of detriment really helps set the foundation of a continued success in doing a certain habit. But did you ever find a detriment whatsoever in pushing yourself to walk as much as you did? It could be an injury, it could be time away from home, but was there ever a detriment at all?
I lived through multiple injuries. I broke a toe. It didn't break the normal way, sideways. It broke spirally, and I had sinus surgery during my event. I had an ingrown toe surgery during
Oh,
my event. So yes, I lived through a lot of things. I would balance that out by, you've got 1,000 days left. So if you just adjust a little here, and that margin of error got less and less. I'm a big math person, so as we talk through, we can talk. I sort of do all the math in my head, but you get less variable or less squelching the closer you get to the goal. And I'll cut to the chase. We had a goal of being around the circumference by my 50th birthday. That was April 11th, 2022. I was born April 11th, 1972, for those that don't see math. And I literally finished March 14th, Pi 2022, which was 28 days exactly early, which meant that I averaged more than the 12 a day I needed to get beyond my goal. So it was awesome. And there were days in there where I had zero. There were days in there where I was on vacation before I started the David Goggins thing, and I had 10 days of vacation where I just left the Fitbit in America. And so it all adds up. And once you've set a goal like that, it really will, if you allow it. I don't know if it's 100 days in or how many times you have to do it, but at some point
yeah.
you get into a groove. And my wife would say, hey, I think it's time for you to go for a walk, similar to the commercial where they say, here's a Snickers.
Walking is your Snickers. That's what we're saying.
Walking is my Snickers. You can quote me on that.
Uh, Robbie, where are you right now in terms of mileage out of your? And I'm going to keep putting this number back up. But how many miles are you into your Earth circumference walk in your second lap?
I didn't. I was gonna look before they've Fitbit got bought by Google, and
Oh,
so there's this big kind of disconnect right now. Please, anybody at Fitbit, Google, listening, make it easier. But you can't get all the stats in one area and everything else that's back in the app. And I'm about 30, just under 33,000 miles total. I've got a little thing on my pinned tweet, if you're on Twitter, where you can guess what I'm going to be at when I hit 10 years, which is July 15th, 2024. Sorry, 2025, next year, next July. And I'm giving away something good. I'm I think I've got 3.5 to 4.5 more years, depending on, injury. I am 52, and I have had, as I've said, injuries, and it does sometimes take a little longer for me to heal.
Robbie, have you ever thought about just speeding things up and running?
It's the joints. I have run during this. I mean, I did a world's toughest mudder. I did 26 miles, I think it was, in 24 hours. I had to run a lot to do that. I looked at, quite honestly, when I got done with lap one, I looked at, hey, I'm going to do something different. So I'm going to do a different medium for year two. I bought waterproof headphones. I
Wow.
decided I was going to swim every day. And It took us a couple days of me not walking to understand that it's something after as long as I've done it, I can't not do it now.
I I agree. I've run enough marathons at this point where I don't have to run any more marathons. And it's probably one of the best feelings. I would travel somewhere and I would see people running. I'd be like, I'm so jealous right now because I'm not running. I used to have that feeling. I don't have that feeling whatsoever anymore. And there's so much like, as I'm walking, I'm getting my steps in. I have my goal of only 15,000 steps right now into October on average. But I no longer have that feeling because the benefits of walking, I know I've felt a lot more benefits of walking and lifting versus just running and doing some little lifting here or there. So it's definitely been good. But Robbie, you know what? I think that's 30 minutes right now. 30 minutes of some Gramps energy, a little introduction into second lap. Things learned from the first lap. Robbie Mattson, it's an amazing story that you have right now. And I think that the inspiration you can give to so many people, it's endless right now. So
Thank
I'm
you.
hoping that we're going to do this again. Well, we are. We're going to figure out some sort of frequency. But, walking, let's get Gramps in your head. So whenever you're thinking about what you need, walking might be the answer.
It will bring clarity.
I think that's what it is. Robbie, give us a sign off. Give us a tagline of sorts that you feel would really hit home for your people.
I'm just going to go back to what my whole core message is. I think we as a society have two choices: love or fear. I think most of us are designed and benefit and grow with that fear side. And I've chosen to lead with love because I think that there's a lot more benefit that comes from it. So lead with love, Gramps.
I love it, Gramps. Gramps, we will get back on and I'll see you next time. And guys, that is second lap with Robbie Mattson. All right,
Thanks,
Gramps.
Ryan.
Talk soon. Bye.
Cool. I'm going to hang up. Appreciate you.